So picture an early morning, right? The house is completely quiet, and you're just watching a senior Afghan hound rising from its bed.
Yeah, and it's not the way it used to be.
Right. It's no longer that, fluid, effortless, almost liquid motion they have when they're young. This time, there's a careful stretch. There's a really distinct pause.
It's like you can actually see the dog calculating its own leverage,
Mm.
right? Finding the exact right angle to push off the floor so they don't, set a shock wave through their stiff joints.
Exactly. And then you watch them cross toward the door. And they're stepping just a little more deliberately. Maybe they're shortening their stride when they hit the smooth part of the hardwood floor.
But then, right on cue, a squirrel darts across the fence line outside.
Oh, yeah. Instantly the head snaps up.
Yep. The eyes lock on with that exact same razor-sharp visual intensity we associate with the breed. I mean, the prey drive, the focus, it is all entirely present.
The hunter is still in there. The spirit is completely intact. The body it just requires a little more time and physics to get where it's going.
That's a great way to put it.
Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. If you're listening to this, you likely know exactly what that morning routine looks like. So today, we are exploring the emotional and honestly intensely practical mechanics of senior care. And we're focusing on the aloof, majestic, and famously stoic Afghan hound.
Right. Because the goal here isn't to wrap an aging creature in bubble wrap, and just remove them from life.
Exactly. The mission of our deep dive into these sources today is about adapting the environment. We want to preserve their independence and keep them actively participating in their own world.
And that philosophy of preservation is just so critical. True senior care requires us to fundamentally shift our perspective.
How so?
While we aren't managing a decline, we are engineering a new way of living for a body that operates under a completely different set of biological rules than it did, say, 5 years ago.
I want to challenge the very premise of when that shift happens, though, because we talk about senior dogs and people often point to a specific age, right?
Oh, absolutely. They want a magic number.
Yeah, exactly. Is it 7? Is it 9? Because I look at a 7-year-old Afghan hound who acts like a total puppy, and then a 9-year-old who looks ancient. The whole concept of a senior milestone feels completely arbitrary to me.
Yeah.
When does the biological reality of aging actually begin?
Well, I mean, it feels arbitrary because it is arbitrary.
Really?
Yeah. There is no biological switch that just magically flips on their 8th birthday. Aging is an incredibly complex, localized process. It's dictated by genetics, their lifetime diet, injury history, even chronic stress.
Wow, okay.
So you might have a dog with this incredibly robust cardiovascular system, but they have rapidly deteriorating cartilage in their stifles, their knee joints.
Right, right.
You basically have to discard the calendar entirely. Instead, you need to observe the micro patterns of their daily behavior.
But observing those micro patterns in an Afghan hound is notoriously difficult. I mean, they are a deeply stoic breed.
Very stoic.
Yes. They don't walk up to you and announce that their hip hurts. I feel like owners see a dog slowing down and they just fall into this trap of waving a hand and saying, oh, he's just getting old.
Which is so dangerous.
Right. So how do we differentiate between natural, expected cellular aging and a dog that is, quietly enduring severe pain?
You really have to look for physiological stress signals rather than overt cries of pain. A dog like this, they won't yelp dramatically.
Okay, so what do they do?
Well, instead, you might see inappropriate panting, like when the house is totally cool and they haven't been exercising at all.
Right, really. Just panting.
Yep, that panting is a biological response to cortisol. It's a stress hormone released when they are in pain. Or you might see a shortened stride, which is their biomechanical way of reducing the impact load on a painful joint.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
Or you see hesitation before they jump into the car. And it's not tiredness. It is calculated hesitation because they know the landing is going to hurt.
So the quietness is actually the mask. And if they are moving with that kind of calculated hesitation, my instinct, and I think the instinct of a lot of owners, is to just let them rest.
Right, right.
Like if I have a thrown out back, I stay in bed. It seems completely logical that if an older dog is stiff, we should drastically cut back their exercise so they don't, injure themselves further.
It is a completely understandable human instinct, but I have to tell you, biomechanically, it is the worst thing you could possibly do.
Wait, really?
Yes, when you eliminate exercise, you trigger a rapid acceleration of muscle atrophy.
Because the muscle is the only thing acting as a shock absorber for those failing joints.
Precisely. As the cartilage thins out and joints become arthritic,
Hmm.
the dog relies heavily on these microstabilizer muscles just to maintain their balance and confidence.
Right.
If you put them on bed rest, those muscles just waste away. And suddenly, they don't just have sore joints, they have zero structural support around those joints.
Oh.
And that weakness leads to a loss of proprioception, which is their awareness of where their feet are in space. And that drastically increases the risk of a catastrophic fall.
You know, I was thinking about this earlier. Let's unpack this a bit. It's kind of like dealing with a veteran human athlete.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you have someone who spent their 20s running Ironman triathlons, they don't just sit on the couch when they hit 60.
Right, they keep moving.
Yeah, they transition to restorative yoga or swimming. The movement doesn't stop. The type of movement changes to protect the joints while maintaining the core strength.
I absolutely love that analogy because yoga is all about controlled balance. And that is exactly what an aging dog needs.
So what does that look like practically?
Practically, this means abandoning the exhausting 2-hour weekend hike over rough terrain. Instead, you do shorter, more frequent walks on even surfaces.
That sounds much more manageable.
And you give them plenty of time to sniff. Sniffing olfactory processing requires massive neurological energy for a dog. Yeah, it provides intense mental stimulation that actually replaces the physical fatigue they used to get from sprinting.
And we can't ignore the physiology of the warm-up, right? You can't just open the front door and let a senior dog launch off the porch.
Oh, definitely not. Because synovial fluid, that's the natural lubrication inside their joints, it thickens when they rest.
Oh, interesting.
Gentle, slow movement warms up that fluid and reduces friction. Easing into a walk prevents those micro tears in the muscle fibers.
But exercise isn't just happening on a leash, is it? The most dangerous terrain they navigate is often right inside our own homes.
Absolutely.
For a tall, long-limbed dog, getting up to get a drink of water in a house with slick hardwood floors is a major athletic event.
If they're losing those microstabilizers we just talked about, walking on polished hardwood is like you trying to walk across an icy balance beam while wearing wool socks.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
It is. Their paw pads dry out as they age, so they lose their natural grip. They are constantly tensing their inner thigh muscles just to keep their legs from splaying out beneath them. And that chronic muscle tension is just exhausting.
Which is why environmental engineering is totally non-negotiable. Putting down non-slip runners and securing area rugs along their main traffic routes, that entirely changes their daily energy expenditure.
It really does.
But here's something from the source material I really struggle to understand. When we talk about engineering their resting spaces, their beds, I always assumed an aching dog would want the softest, deepest, most plush bed imaginable.
Like a cloud.
Yeah, exactly, sleeping on a cloud. Why does the text say extreme plushness is actually detrimental?
It comes down to the physics of leverage. Think about sitting in a giant, overstuffed beanbag chair.
Okay, yeah, hard to get out of.
Exactly. It feels great when you sink into it. But when you have to stand up, you have absolutely nothing solid to push against. You need explosive core and quad strength to launch yourself out of that deficit.
And a senior dog just doesn't have that.
Right. A senior dog's rear legs simply do not have that explosive power anymore. If they're in a marshmallow soft bed, they have to struggle, thrash, and strain just to get their feet under them.
Oh, wow. That makes total sense. So they actually need resistance.
Exactly. They need a high-density orthopedic foam. It provides enough give to cushion the pressure points on their hips and elbows, but it retains enough structural integrity that they can actually push off it easily. Support always trumps softness.
That's a great rule of thumb.
And the same logic applies to ramps, like for getting into the car or onto the bed.
You know, ramps always sound like the perfect solution, but I've seen dogs absolutely refuse to use them.
Because the biomechanics of a ramp can be terrifying for a dog with failing vision and weak hindquarters.
Oh, I didn't think about the vision aspect.
Yet if the incline is too steep, it forces all their weight onto their back legs. If the surface texture lacks aggressive grip, they slip. And if an Afghan hound slips once and feels that loss of control, their self-preservation instinct kicks in. They will never trust that ramp again.
That fear of slipping connects directly to an aspect of their anatomy we rarely think about in terms of mobility, their nails.
Those nails are huge.
If an older dog isn't walking on abrasive surfaces like concrete as much, their nails overgrow. And that isn't just a cosmetic issue, is it?
It is a profound structural issue. Dogs are digitigrade. That means they walk on their toes, not the pads of their feet, like humans do.
Right?
So when a nail grows too long and strikes the floor, it physically pushes the toe upward, This changes the phalangeal angle, which is the angle of the bones in their feet.
Ouch.
Yeah, to compensate for that unnatural angle, the dog shifts their weight backward onto their heels, and that alters the angle of their wrists, their elbows, shoulders, and spine.
Wait, so one overgrown nail essentially throws their entire skeletal alignment out of whack, forcing them to bear weight on joints that are already compromised by arthritis?
Exactly. And that altered posture makes standing completely agonizing.
Which cascades straight into grooming. If standing hurts because their posture is compromised by long nails and failing muscle, then an hour-long grooming session for an Afghan Hound's coat just becomes absolute torture.
It becomes this awful cycle of decline. The dog resists grooming because standing hurts. So the owner backs off, thinking, oh, the dog is just getting grumpy.
Right, you don't want to force them.
But because the grooming stops, the coat mats. And as dogs age, they lose collagen. Their skin becomes incredibly thin, fragile, and prone to tearing. Those mats pull tightly against that paper-thin skin with literally every step the dog
That
takes.
sounds miserable.
So now the dog is in chronic pain from the mats, which compounds the joint pain, which makes them even less likely to move.
The interconnectedness of this is just wild. The foot posture affects the grooming, which affects the skin, which affects mobility, and the foundation of all of this, the spin health, the muscle preservation, the joint support, it all starts internally. It comes down to cellular fuel, nutrition.
Absolutely.
But I look at a senior dog's diet in the text, and I see a massive contradiction. If my dog goes to the vet at age 4 and weighs 60 pounds, and then goes back at age 10 and weighs exactly 60 pounds, my instinct is to celebrate. Stable weight means stable health, right?
That is what veterinarians actually call the scale trick, and it is one of the most dangerous illusions in senior canine care.
The scale trick, how so? If the mass is identical, how is that an illusion?
Because the composition of that mass is radically changed. As a dog ages, their ability to synthesize protein decreases. That leads to sarcopenia, which is the natural age-related loss of muscle mass.
Okay.
Muscle is very dense and heavy. Adipose tissue, or fat, is far less dense but takes up more volume.
I see where this is going.
What often happens is the dog loses 3 pounds of heavy functional muscle from their hindquarters and simultaneously gains 3 pounds of inflammatory fat around their ribs because their metabolism slowed down.
The scale reads 0 net change.
Exactly. The scale tells you nothing is wrong. Meanwhile, the dog's structural integrity is actively collapsing. And with an Afghan hound, the thick coat just acts as a curtain. Your eyes will absolutely deceive you. You cannot see the muscle wasting away along the spine or over the hips.
So you have to put your hands on them. You have to physically palpate the shoulders, the spine, and the hindquarters to feel if the muscle tone is actually still there.
Yes, tactile assessment is crucial.
That tactile assessment is the only way to pierce the illusion. But what happens when the illusion isn't just physical? What happens when their behavior fundamentally changes? Because cognitive decline is terrifying for an owner.
It is terrifying. But we have to be extremely careful with how we label behavioral changes. As dogs age, the cellular structures in their eyes and ears degrade. They experience profound sensory loss. An owner might see a dog hesitating at the top of the stairs, or startling aggressively when touched, or ignoring a recall command in the yard. The immediate assumption is often either that the dog is becoming stubborn or that dementia is setting in.
Right, getting frustrated at a dog for being defiant when, in reality, they just didn't hear you approach. I mean, they're living in a quieter, darker world.
And this is where the danger of self-diagnosing canine cognitive dysfunction dementia comes in. Neurological symptoms can be perfectly mimicked by systemic medical issues.
I need you to break that down for me. If my dog is pacing the hallways at 3 in the morning, looking completely disoriented and unable to settle, how is that not a neurological issue? How could that be a physical problem?
Let's look at a urinary tract infection. In a senior dog, a UTI doesn't just cause localized pain, it causes systemic inflammation that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier.
Wait, really?
Yes, and that leads to acute confusion, lethargy, and disorientation. Furthermore, the sheer physical urgency and discomfort of a bladder infection override their ability to settle. They pace because they are in distress, not because they forgot where their bed is.
That completely reframes the issue of house soiling, which is arguably the most emotionally charged part of senior care. I'll play the frustrated owner here for a second.
Go for it.
If my previously perfectly house-trained dog starts peeing on the rug while looking right at me, it feels deeply personal. It feels like a behavioral regression. It's so frustrating to clean up.
I completely understand the emotional toll that takes on an owner. But we have to strip the emotion away and look at the physiology. It is almost never a behavioral failure.
Which is mechanical.
Exactly. It's a mechanical failure. It could be that systemic UTI. It could be that their sphincter controls weakening due to age. Or, tying it back to mobility, their joints might be so stiff that by the time their brain registers the urge to go, they physically cannot navigate the slick hardwood floor and make it to the back door in time.
That's heartbreaking.
And punishing them for a mechanical breakdown only adds anxiety to their physical distress.
This entire conversation really highlights why navigating this phase alone is impossible. You need a veterinarian to untangle the sensory, cognitive, and physical threads. But I want to push back on a major medical intervention that vets often recommend.
Sure. What is it?
Pain medication. I hear this argument constantly, and honestly, it makes logical sense to me at first glance. If my dog has a torn ligament or severe arthritis, and I give them a strong NSAID like Rimadyl, they feel great. The pain is gone. But doesn't that just mask the injury?
Ah, I see.
Like, aren't they going to run outside, chase a squirrel, and completely blow out their knee because I artificially removed their biological warning system?
It is a very common fear, but it fundamentally misunderstands how chronic pain works in a mammalian nervous system.
How so?
Chronic pain doesn't just hurt. It actually changes the nervous system. It causes something called wind-up, where the pain receptors become hypersensitized. Eventually, even a light touch feels like absolute agony. Managing pain is treating the condition because it downregulates that hypersensitized nervous system.
But what about the risk of them overexerting themselves because they suddenly feel good?
The idea that we should allow an animal to suffer untreated pain simply to serve as a biological leash is ethically and medically flawed.
Wow, okay.
Comfort is the primary goal. If you're worried about them overdoing it because they finally feel good, well, that is where your environmental management comes in.
Right, the rugs and ramps.
Exactly. You put them on a leash in the backyard. You control the environment. You do not use suffering as a tool for restriction. Furthermore, veterinary rehabilitation professionals specialize in this. They use targeted pain relief so the dog can perform safe, controlled exercises to rebuild that atrophied muscle we talked about earlier.
So pain relief breaks the cycle of decline and actually allows for rehabilitation. That is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is.
Now, while we're talking about medical realities, we need to touch on an acute emergency that is highly prevalent in deep-chested breeds like the Afghan Hound, bloat, or GDV. That's where the stomach fills with gas and pulses twisting on its axis. Some owners assume that if a dog makes it to age 10 without bloating, they're kind of out of the woods.
That is a fatal assumption.
Yeah.
Age does not confer immunity to GDV.
It doesn't.
No. In fact, as dogs age, the hepatogastric ligaments, those are the internal connective tissues that hold the stomach in place, they can actually stretch and weaken. This potentially increases the risk of the stomach twisting if it fills with gas.
So the mechanics actually get more dangerous with age. If you see sudden abdominal distension, unproductive retching, or collapse, it does not matter if the dog is 12 years old. It is an immediate, catastrophic surgical emergency.
Absolutely. Minutes dictate survival in that scenario.
Okay, let's crystallize some of these medical concepts. I want to rapid fire through 4 major misconceptions about aging dogs from our sources today.
Let's do it.
Number 1, silence equals comfort.
False. As we discussed, stoic breeds mask their discomfort. Silence simply means they are enduring the pain internally. Cortisol levels tell the real story.
Number 2, weight loss is normal because Afghan hounds are naturally lean.
False. Natural leanness is a genetic body type. Rapid or steady weight loss in a senior is a pathological decline. It's likely muscle wasting or metabolic disease, and it absolutely must be investigated.
Number 3, sleeping more hours in the day equates to a poor quality of life.
False again. Cellular repair requires rest. What dictates quality of life isn't the duration of their sleep, but the engagement and joy present during their waking hours.
And number 4, one bad day, one severe struggle to stand up means it is time to say goodbye.
False. Quality of life is a trajectory. It's an overarching pattern, not a singular snapshot of a difficult afternoon.
I want to focus heavily on that last point, because tracking that trajectory inevitably leads to the heaviest part of senior care, which is the quality of life equation. Eventually, every owner has to sit in an exam room and discuss pain management, mobility, hygiene, and the dog's ability to mentally connect.
It is the hardest conversation you will ever have.
Yeah.
But we have to reframe what that conversation actually is.
No, so.
Planning for end-of-life care isn't giving up on your dog. Having that brutally honest discussion with your veterinarian before a catastrophic crisis forces your hand is an act of profound, courageous love.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
You are mapping out a strategy for their peace, and owners torture themselves looking for a perfect lightning bolt moment of absolute certainty. The reality is that moment rarely exists. Ambiguity and guilt are inherently part of the process, and acknowledging that helps release some of the burden.
It's about maintaining a wide-angle view of their life, which brings us beautifully back full circle to that quiet morning we pictured at the start, the senior Afghan hound rising from its bed. But now we can see the hidden mechanics of that scene. We see the high-density orthopedic foam they are pushing off from. We see the trimmed nails that allow their toes to grip the floor properly.
We see the non-slip runners bridging the hardwood.
Exactly. The morning walk is shorter, the pace is dictated by the dog, but they still stop to process the scent of the wind. They are still engaging with their world, just under a new set of physical rules.
It's a vivid image of success. It is a life deeply adapted to biological reality rather than a life ended prematurely due to a lack of environmental engineering.
And managing all these interconnected variables, the medication timing, the subtle shifts in weight, the frequency of those bad days, it requires immense mental bandwidth. Trying to keep all of that straight in your head is just overwhelming.
Completely overwhelming.
That's why tracking the micro patterns over time with tools like the Vital Pet app is so practical. It consolidates all those health records, medication schedules, and daily observations into one place. We've put a download link for that in the description because having hard data over a 6-month period is invaluable when you have those quality of life discussions with your vet.
Data removes the emotion and the memory bias. It shows you the true trajectory.
Exactly. To wrap this up, caring for a senior breed like the Afghan Hound is rarely glamorous. It isn't found in a heroic sprint across a field or a perfect show ring stack. It is found in the quiet, daily, invisible decisions. It's laying down a rug, trimming a nail, and having the patience to wait an extra 60 seconds for them to navigate the porch steps.
It is the absolute highest form of stewardship.
Before we go, a quick reminder that this deep dive is for educational purposes only. Always consult your licensed veterinarian to untangle the specific medical realities of your own dog. But as always, I know you've got a final thought for us to chew on today based on all of this biology and behavior.
I do. We spent a lot of time today dissecting how the Afghan Hound's stoicism can mask their physical pain, how the coat hides the muscle loss, and how the silence hides the struggle.
Right.
But if we turn that lens around, how much does our own profound human fear of mortality and our deep emotional resistance to seeing our beloved companions fade cause us to subconsciously ignore the subtle cues they are broadcasting? Are they really the ones hiding their aging? Or are we simply choosing not to look because the reality breaks our hearts?
Wow. That is an incredibly heavy, necessary question. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep observing the micro patterns, keep challenging your assumptions, and keep engineering their world for success. Because as we saw this morning, even when the leverage is harder to find and the body slows down, the hunter's eyes are still locked on the horizon. Catch you next time.